Calling the meeting to order at 4:06. Bob Bastinto, co-chair, Roy Gott, co-chair, Tom Toll for the committee, and guest Dan Demerit. You are Mission Broadband, right?
No, I do communication consulting to get ready. So
Okay.
anything.
Okay.
I bill any support I provide directly back to Kendra Joe and ready. So
Okay.
I don't build the committees. I'm not here on your dime. I'm here on hers.
There have been so many consultants in and out. I just lose track of who's with what. And Jeff Nevins, yes, for Mission Broadband, yes?
Yes.
There we go. Review and approval of prior meeting minutes from July 12th, 2023.
Aye.
All right. Tom, you're good with the minutes? I'm certainly good with the minutes. Sandy had a chance to look over them. Tom, will you make not Tom, Bob, is that a motion to approve the minutes as written for you?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Need somebody to second? And
Tom, will you second that?
Second it.
Thank you. All those in favor,
aye.
including Sandy. All right. All right, follow up from July 25th outreach. Tom, you were there, right?
Yes,
That was a very small, intimate group.
very small.
And I don't feel like it was a particularly productive meeting, but there was some discussion and it was good to get those different perspectives. And I think I meant to have that. So let me bring that up and just share I'll share the list that I have. We actually had more people join in from Zoom, which was a bit of a shift. So it wasn't a total loss. And I'm just going to hide people's contact information before I share. Just so I don't have to go and edit the video later and render it overnight just to have blurred out a section. Okay, so here's the list of everybody who was in attendance physically, who signed up, and the 5 people that we had. This does not include, of course, myself or Sandy or Bob. But these were the people that signed up on the list, and these are the 5 that we had at some point on Zoom. So it was not a lost night. It was worth, and in my opinion, it's always worth communicating. So, but I think given the trend in turnout, I think we've done the outreach meetings that we should in this format until we've got something more substantial. And here is Mark joining us. Hello, Mark. All right. We did approve the minutes with Sandy's written permission, and we're just on the review of the July, in case you can hear me, the July outreach meeting. And I said how it was a small gathering, but it's good to have the discussion. But I think we've done enough of these style outreach meetings until we have something that comes out of the RFP process. Did you have any thoughts about that meeting? You're muted. I'm gonna make that little sign that says you're muted.
Okay, I think, is that better?
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, on the work platform that I use is another platform for video calls, so I'm not as familiar with Zoom. Thank you.
Right.
As far as the recent outreach, definitely, yeah, it was lightly attended, but I think it was well presented and there was some good questions. I think there was definitely one particular couple sticks out in mind. They were asking a lot of good questions, I thought, that kind of spurred some additional thoughts, I think, for some of the other participants. So that was good.
Yeah.
So there was some good dialogue there. So I
Yeah.
wanted to also mention that.
Yep. And that reminds me of a question, maybe somebody in the consultant sphere knows the answer to this. The licensing fee for the polls, is that a one-time thing or is that an ongoing? Do we know?
I don't know, but I can find out.
I would assume it's more of a one-time thing because that would seem like a very large chunk of money if it was an ongoing thing, monthly or yearly, to just keep relicensing. That would just seem to be unusual to me. And it's not anything that was mentioned by Dan Sullivan when we talked to DBU. But that was one of the questions that came up that made me scratch my head a little bit.
I'll find out, Ray, and Roy, and get back to you.
Okay, no problem. So unless, Bob, did you have anything you wanted to add about the outreach?
No, like you said, it was lightly attended, but that couple has some very good questions.
Mhm.
And there was some benefit from them talking. I mean, always,
Yeah.
they're interested. That's the important thing.
Absolutely. The gentleman of that couple, he was at the Gouldsboro Select Board meeting when I went and requested the Select Board investigate the interlocal agreement with legal counsel. So he asked some questions there too. Mainly the idea of how do you sell it to somebody who doesn't necessarily see an immediate value. So I guess we'll move on to RFP, and let me switch over to that document.
All 74 pages?
Well, I don't think we have to go over all 74. I think just the pages that we had questions about.
Sure.
And right here.
I think it was 8.6, if I recall.
All right, so because did this are you seeing the RFP document now?
No,
Yes.
Yes.
You're not seeing it, Bob?
nope. I just see you. Let me go to,
I'm
On my
seeing the
screen,
document.
there we
Yeah.
go. Now, I switched to shared content.
Okay. Well, this is going to be more interesting than my face, I can promise. All right, so let's see. I just put in the comments here. Tom, I think some of your comments were just about areas where the term city was still in use. Am I correct in assuming that was those paragraphs that were highlighted by you without any further comment? It's where it said city and it should have said towns.
Yeah, that was the gist of it.
Okay. So what I've done in those cases, I've simply highlighted where I've changed the word city to towns.
Hmm.
This was a question. I forget who asked this. I think it might have been you, Tom.
That was
About,
me.
okay.
Yeah.
So I inserted here just for flexibility an estimated 751 of the 1722. But again, per I note here, per the mapping review, that those numbers we should definitely make sure as when it goes out that those are the most correct numbers that we have access to. And those may be the current ones. Are those that you sent, Jeff?
Roy, those may change because the original map was done with data that has since been updated and changed.
Okay.
So we will update that, and we will use the most recent
Okay.
data that came out the end of June.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just leave this highlighted, and if we as a committee approve of all this tonight and we don't think there's anything else we need to do to this document, I'll just send you this document, Jeff, and then you can take out the highlights and update for when we go to publish. Does that work?
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay. And This comment here, I highlighted potentially serve only those funding eligible locations. I, I was, this is just wordsmithing. That's absolutely what we are trying to get to, but I want to have in the mindset that with the idea that we're going to expand to the rest over time, which is why I said define phases of work to prioritize eligible locations that can be undertaken immediately while identifying areas that could be expanded to at a later point. Does that language make sense for you for this document, Jeff?
It does. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, does that work for the
Mhm.
committee?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
we could make it undertaken immediately with available grant funding. We could even include that in the language to be clear that those are the areas that we're prioritizing, but uh, that was my thought there. So if that's good,
Well, with grant funding, we can also get additional grant funding to cover areas that are not eligible. But wouldn't that be the case?
well, we might be able to, but I think the Hancock County funding was, the idea for that was to cover our match for the MCA grant.
Okay.
Now, if in this process we identify little snippets, like for example, this Millard Billings was talking about Township
Mhm.
7. And I know, Jeff, you said you were going to reach out to him. I don't know if that's happened, but he was talking about TIF money to connect those few people that were in Township 7. Uh, Obviously, that's going to be a certain amount of funding. It's not a huge amount of, I don't think that's going to be a very big part of the network, but it's funding. And I think if Hancock County wants to give us, and we can make a compelling argument for more than just the match that we could then use to maybe build out certain targeted areas, then I think that's great. But this doesn't, but that wouldn't preclude us with this language, I don't think, because it just,
Mm.
but
It'd
we'll
probably
see.
be on a case-by-case basis then.
Yeah. But if we could, and like I've said before, if we get at least a project for the areas that we can serve here, then to me, that's better than nothing. And then as it gets up and running and generating some income, then perhaps we have the ability to sort of piecemeal add other stuff in. And maybe we get another town to help join in as well, and maybe that goes that way. But that's for that comment. 8.4, actually 8.3.3. I think this said smart city before. I think this is another one that Tom had pointed out. And I just changed it to future smart municipal, um, just to be generic and broad. And 8.4, I we were talking about this before anybody else joined in, that this feels like a holdover from a different town because there's no municipal facilities that are underground that we're aware of. Everything's aerial unless it's on private poles or private roads, in which case. Now, Jeff, do you expect this? I think it says somewhere else in here where existing utilities are underground, that new service must also run underground. That's in somewhere else beside this section, I think, right?
I do. I think it's in two different places.
Okay,
And that's our comment,
okay.
question. Is this true? Because
Yeah,
if it's not true, we would just strike it, Roy.
I think we can safely strike this 8.4, and
Mhm.
then of course,
Agreed.
Okay.
everybody good with that?
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. And I see here technical support. This was Tom's question. Technical support level 1, 2, 3 vendor must have a network operations center or technical support call center to take calls from subscribers with service and repair issues. And the question was, is that for 24/7? That's just to be the first, point of contact. There's a problem, you call, somebody answers, and that's,
Okay.
is that what that is aiming at?
Yes.
Okay,
I can check that one.
But-
I thought that was in there. I thought the 24/7 support was in there. Let me go back and check on that
Okay.
one,
okay,
because that was the intent.
all right.
Hmm.
Well, let's, we're on top of page 16, but let's just find. Operate, manage, and monitor a network on a 24/7 basis. This is in 13, specific operator requirements. Is that what you were?
Yeah, that's the one. yeah.
Okay,
But
Yeah.
that's different, right?
it sounds a little different to me,
If I'm having problems as a customer, can
right?
I call at any time of the day and night?
Operate, manage, and monitor the net. Yeah, yes, good point. We can include it back in the, what number is that?
Right here.
12.5.4. Yeah, we can add that there.
Well, we could just make it with service and repair issues 24/7. Is that how we
Yes.
would want it written there? Should we spell it out, or is that gonna be clear enough for the purposes of the RFP 24/7?
I think it's clear enough.
Okay. So,
Well, Roy, typically when I responded to RFPs like that,
mhm,
it'd be 24/7 by 365. So there's no doubt.
I can put it in.
Yeah.
The nitpicky person in me does not like the idea of the multiplicative implications of that, but I've seen it written that way, so I'm fine with that.
Okay.
That would not cover leap year.
No. You're out of luck if it's a leap year.
Like those poor helpless souls who were born on the 29th of February that only get a birthday every 4 years.
4 years. Yep.
I
So,
do have a quick question. I think the answer is probably yes, but as far as, we're talking about support here. And one thing that kind of comes to my mind in regards to support is, how about new account provisioning? Would that be covered in that same section, I guess?
that's handled by the internet service provider side of things, and I know Jeff made it very clear last time that we really should strive to have whoever the partner is we take on to build and operate the network would also be expected most likely to be an internet provider who would offer the service.
Right.
And the new customer sign up, provisioning, install would be part of there. Is that written in here, Jeff, that you can think of right off the bat?
I don't recall
Okay,
that it's in there specifically. And, I think those are things that you would have a conversation with
the
whoever it is.
respondents.
Yeah, whoever it is that you choose. So I think you can
Mhm.
get into more details at that point.
Right.
that
And Roy, look at 13.1.1.2. Coordination and scheduling of all activities.
Also, it occurs to me, these bullets are not correct here. This should be 13.3.1. So we may
Oh,
want to fix those.
Yeah, I got it.
13 future 3.1.1, 3.1.2,
Yes.
coordination scheduling of all activities related to
Yep.
service installation with internal and external parties, including splicing, trenching, traffic. Yep.
Numbering. Okay. We can handle that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now that's the network operator coordination and scheduling. That's not the actual, it could be
End
the
user.
same person. It could
It's-
be like in the DBU model, they have the network operator that's a local electrical contractor. And Pioneer is the ISP. So yeah, I mean, this RFP includes, it breaks it out into the different roles, even though they could possibly be the same people.
Yeah, I mean, typically in provisioning, Roy, it goes from like one department to another, sign off
Mhm.
on it as it goes along.
Mhm.
But ultimately, it's like the service coordinator
Yeah.
that will do the test and turn up and then will do all the provisioning on that.
Mhm.
Unless it could also go to engineering too for them to sign off.
And what you were saying, Jeff, about negotiating with the respondents or whoever we select at the end, that would be the time when we would, for example, again, referring to DBU, they have the first 1,500 feet of installation distance from the fiber to the home included in the install. Things like seasonal
Hmm.
shutdown rates
Right.
or
Yep.
that would be the time we would have those types of discussions. And you mentioned peering agreements would be something that we would discuss with the ISP as well.
Yeah, and we can include that type of language, Roy. The pairing
Okay.
agreement is not that difficult. I mean, we can insert that in there.
Hmm.
Okay.
That
If
would be
there's
good.
Yeah, if there's a place we can insert that's logical, why don't we plan to, do you want to drop
Yeah.
that in?
Yep.
Yep, I can
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
Yeah. The only other thing I see here, and it's real minor, is 13116 end
Okay.
user service requests
I'll
for
just,
adds, moves, changes, and disconnects include that, otherwise known as a MACD.
okay, I'll just highlight here, I think this is another one that Tom may have pointed out, went from does to do because we pluralized towns. 13116,
6.
okay, end user service requests for all adds, moves, and changes, and you would say disconnects?
And as well as disconnects, which is known as a MACD, that language. It's actually it's like a move, add, change, disconnect. That's the order on a MACD.
Okay,
That's
That's
an
fine.
acronym.
like that.
Yep.
Do you want me to highlight that, Jeff, or is that good just like that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, if you would highlight it, just so
Okay.
I know there's a change there. It
All right.
sounds good. Thank you.
All right. And then again, I don't remember what the original was here, but there was a slight change there for towns, making it, whether it was possessive or whatever the case may be. And I think that was about the extent of the edits.
Okay. That looks good.
Yeah.
What did I just see here? Oh, this was the search. There we go. I was like, why is that highlighted? All right. So I will send, well, do you have access to this document already, Jeff? As it was distributed as a Google Doc? Were you able to, you got the email, it was one of the files that was linked to.
Okay.
Let me, you know what?
And you've made some changes to this, so will that be reflected in that document?
This should be reflected. Let me tell you what, you try and access it when you get a chance after the meeting and let me know if you see these, and I will put. I'll just put that at the top there. It says modified, and if you see it, it says modified, you know you've got the current one.
Sounds good.
And if
Sounds
not,
good.
let me know.
I will. Okay, sounds good.
All right.
I saw some language here on SLAs,
Yeah,
and yeah, where did I see that? That towns are supposed to negotiate.
the towns plan to negotiate final service level agreement requirements with the winning vendors. Please explain your approach to SLA guarantees for residential, commercial, and municipal subscribers.
Well, the SLAs come in various flavors or components. One is like mean time to repair, service availability, uptime, things like that. And
Mhm.
typically vendors will go like 3 or 4 nines on the availability of the network.
Yeah,
So, and then as far as like mean time to repair, or some of them, their interpretation is mean time to restore.
mhm,
And meantime could be from the time a customer places a phone call to customer service complaining, like, my service is down.
mhm.
And that's when the clock would start. Once an outage is reported, unless the knock detects like somebody hit a telephone pole.
No, I think the way this is written here, that would be something when we're getting into evaluating the responses.
Hmm.
We would come up with the metrics that probably would make sense, what we would feel would be important. And then we would perhaps interview with the respondents and see what they would say, and then we can go from there. Does that
Right.
seem to make sense?
Well,
Okay,
please explain your approach. That sums it up nicely.
Yeah.
For putting the onus on them to explain how they do it.
okay. Anybody else with thoughts from the committee?
I think we could, looks good.
So Jeff, you'll take this document and you'll bundle it up in a nice neat package, and then we'll work on posting it on website and at the town offices. And what do we do? Run it in a news? We don't put the whole thing in a newspaper, but we do,
What, I guess I will ask you the question.
Mhm.
Do you know what the legal requirements are from each of the towns in terms of posting? So
So,
we're consistent with
yeah.
that.
We asked about that. And I think, yep. My organizational system hasn't failed yet. Winter Harbor, they said in the public notice section of a newspaper saying the RFP is out, with a brief summary, copies at the town offices, and contact info for the RFP administrator. Committee reserves, including the text that the committee reserves the right to accept or reject any or all received proposals. And Gouldsboro, they didn't have anything specific, but they said that the same thing sounded just fine to them.
Okay. The other typical standard language on that is that RFPs, the cost or expenses will be borne by the provider or the respondent.
The cost of,
Any costs that incidental costs will be borne by the vendor. So if they have to do like a road review, uh, or to see where the fiber run is, or proposed fiber run, cost gas and everything and time and materials, they have to bear that expense. It is not the town.
so basically any incidental cost to responding to an RFP will be the responsibility of the vendor.
That's correct.
Okay. I don't know that I have shared this with you, Jeff, but do you want me to share it with you now?
Sure. What newspaper would this go in?
I
What's the
would,
re-
I would think, well, certainly our localist newspaper is Ellsworth American, but the Bangor Daily is, I think, would be the more practical one for this purpose. Not that it couldn't be both.
Yeah, I would recommend both.
Is Roy, is that something the towns will help us with? 'Cause
What,
typically we don't do it, but the towns do it.
I don't know that it's, I certainly would not want to necessarily put it on either of the towns, but it's basically, it's like an ad based almost. You reach out to the newspaper and ask them to post it, right? And they bill you for it. Is that, I've never done a public notice.
I haven't either.
Okay.
We typically, that's usually something that the
Okay,
that the towns take care of, so it's not usually, and let me ask the question. Let's, let
I-
me see if Mission has done that in the past, and
well,
if we have, we'll take care of it.
and if not, I'm sure, I know the towns certainly have. And Dan shares mainnotices.com as I guess another place to just put that up. Uh, Certainly the towns could go over the process because I know they do public notices quite regularly. So maybe it is a scenario where if we provide them the copy, maybe they can just reach out and one of the towns, we wouldn't have to do it in both towns.
Let me ask about it, Roy, and then you
Okay.
and I can communicate back and forth. We'll
Good
figure it
enough.
out.
All right.
You also, and I apologize if I missed it, are you also planning to send it directly to providers who are likely to respond to this thing? You know, do you have a list of?
We will, Dan. We have a sort of a standard list.
Yeah.
And we'll share that with the committee. And then if there's something there that you folks think is missing, we'll add it.
All right, then I guess for the record, we ought to have a motion and a second to authorize the posting of the RFP.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve posting of the RFP. Any further discussion? All
Nope.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
I,
thank you. All right. Now, to get the cart squarely in front of the horse, the interlocal agreement, on the assumption that we may end up going the municipally owned broadband utility district route. Here is the feedback from legal review in both towns. There was no comment back from the Gouldsboro attorney about it, other than it needs to go before a special town meeting, which we figured anyway. They didn't have any comments beyond that. Winter Harbor had a little bit more in the way of specific comments. They had here, and he thought it was well written. He said they were minor points, but he asks the question, chapter 223 of what in this whereas clause. And I've sent an email to Dan Sullivan. I haven't heard back yet. The presumption is that it may be from 30A MRSA, in which case it is to do with municipal finance, which would make sense in this context. But I will try to get an answer from him on that. He wanted page numbers, and I think page numbers make sense. They just weren't a substantive part of the document that I thought needed strict legal review, so I didn't bother including them. There was a comment about adding items to an agenda by a majority vote of the board of directors of the corporation, and certainly that's, it's not an advisable practice, but sometimes it's necessary to do. So I just put a comment. I added language in here, in unusual or time-sensitive circumstances, to create the impression it's not going to be the regular course of business. That makes sense to people?
What time sense?
Let's see.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Comment on the default period here, something that was not fixed within 30 days could then deliver a notice of default. They thought that was quick, and I'll admit 30 days seems a little quick to me as well. And then it was, if you're not able to resolve it within 30 days, then you can go to binding arbitration. So go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna say typically 90 days.
Yeah, I was thinking 90 would make more sense. 30 seems very, like someone's very eager to jump the gun on someone defaulting.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm fine with changing that to 90 days and 90
Yep.
days in both places there.
Yeah, if we don't have a remedy, no, then submit it to binding arbitration.
Does that work for the rest of the committee?
Yes.
Okay. And I think the only other thing that the lawyer commented on, nothing about the formula, so I guess the formula made sense. Where was it? It was 13B3. At or prior to the time of withdrawing, the withdrawing member municipality shall pay the entire amount of its outstanding obligations incurred pursuant to this agreement. The lawyer's comments were, no, this is my. Oh, here. The lawyer's comments were, oh, I like this. So there we go. There's the legal opinion. But those were the comments from there. So I'm certainly fine with those changes. So what I'll do is I'll create an updated document and I'll share it with both towns. I think Winter Harbor, I don't think either town would need to go back to the lawyer to accept those types of changes. Does that make sense to people?
It makes
Yes.
sense, but attorneys being attorneys always like to review any change of language.
Yeah, but I think if they were okay with the other one, I mean, we'll see what the town leadership wants to do.
Okay,
Certainly these change from Winter Harbor's perspective, the changes are in response to what their attorney suggested.
Hmm.
So I think as long as the changes are in the vein of going along with what their attorney recommended, I would think that would be something Winter Harbor would agree to. And certainly I think Gouldsboro could see that as well, but we'll see where we go from there. I have no idea what this cost us yet. I haven't heard about any bills, so
right.
I hope not a great amount for the significant legal scholarly advice that was included in the response.
Right. And each member must complete. You know, what I haven't seen, and it just came to mind, is construction timeframes. I mean, we're approaching the fall and then winter, and usually there's a moratorium on construction due to weather.
Well, I don't think we're gonna be. So we haven't talked about timetable much yet. And I know that's something Jeff wanted to discuss. But we're obviously not going out for Connect the Ready at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Once this is posted, it's out there for 6 weeks, or maybe even longer, because I think we have a bigger window now. And one of Jeff's comments from before was companies that would be responding to this will generally prefer not to have to rush during the summer because they have not as many people or whatever the case may be. So we're in the fall, definitely, when we're evaluating responses to this, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when the next round of grant funding is going to happen, but certainly we're not going to be able to proceed until there is a further round of grant funding. So I don't foresee this becoming a winter project. At least not this winter project.
Okay.
Would you concur with that, Jeff?
Completely. What my suggestion would be that because they're right in the middle of the second round and of grant applications, and I think they're due September 14th. It's the second week in September. that my suggestion would be you hold off putting the RFP out until that's done. Because these ISPs are right now, if they're doing applications, they're completely absorbed in that.
Mhm.
That would just be my thought.
We
May-
could get in
maybe-
early when they're done with these other ones that they might be working on right now.
Yeah, and Roy had give them a chance, to go from that to, working on this. And as you said, 4 to 6 weeks, I think would be a more than sufficient time. If you started the time clock, somewhere around the first or second week in September.
Okay.
And that's not far off, as we all know right now.
No.
No, looking
It's
at
right
about
there.
4 weeks.
Yeah. And so just my thought, let me get back to you with a calendar
Mhm.
of proposed steps and dates. And
Yeah.
have you approved that? Is that something you can do as a committee outside of a meeting? Or if you want to have a meeting, we could certainly do that and talk about it.
Yeah, that was something that we actually didn't touch on in here. Obviously, this RFP process timetable needs complete updating, but I think if the committee wants to, we can look at that, and we can always perhaps call a special meeting if we feel the need to, but I think it would be pretty straightforward to be able to come to an agreement on timetable.
Mm-hmm.
And when we say timetable, that would just be like a set of milestones with,
Yeah,
you know,
like right here,
proposed dates. Okay.
RFP posted, all written questions submitted by, responses to all questions posted, proposals due, town select board, council meeting, award date. That, yeah, I don't know what that actual language would be.
And I'll tell you what we've done in others that would have a TBD on it.
Mhm.
If you don't know exactly what the schedule of town meetings would be.
Well, and so in this case, say we get the interlocal agreement and we form the nonprofit that, or whatever, even if it's not for a broadband utility district. Would under that model, would we then be able to select it if the towns agree to work together through an interlocal agreement and form some entity? Would that be the entity then that would be responsible for selecting? Or would it be the two towns separately? How would two towns separately choose one RFP response?
Yeah. What if one town likes one response and the other town likes the other response?
Yeah, that's a good question. Typically, the committee chooses one,
Okay,
and you begin to have discussions, and that one
then-
that you chose becomes your partner in going through all the steps that you have to go through.
and then if anybody has to get it past the town, then it's the committee bringing that partner to the town. So should that milestone, instead of town select board, should that refer to then the committee instead of the select board / council meeting?
We could change it, Roy. I'm fine with that.
Okay. So
Mhm.
I'll highlight that part. And I'll leave the wording to you, but that's just, hopefully that is, all right. We'll go from there.
Yep.
Okay, so any case, is everybody good with the interlocal agreement with those revisions?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
all right. I don't
Yep.
know that we need to have a motion on this. I will I can just take this back to the towns and I guess here's a question, and maybe it's not a question that you'll know the answer right off the bat for, Jeff, but if there's a good option among the responses for the municipally owned broadband utility district setup, similar to Down East Broadband, and we want to pursue that, should we wait until that point to act on the getting the interlocal voted upon, or should we do the interlocal either way, do you think? So that we can continue to move this forward as one entity pursuing this project.
I'm sorry.
Your internet's not sounding pretty good right now.
I'm having a real hearing you.
But we lost Jess, yep, Jeff.
You've got internet access.
How's your internet, Jeff?
He's
Can you
muted.
Yeah, you're muted.
This could be an ad for Spectrum.
All right. So
Can you
yeah, I
can
can
you hear
hear
me
you now.
now?
I can hear you
Roy,
now.
I obviously lost connections here, so I didn't hear your question.
So I'll try and rephrase it because I don't think it was asked in a good way in the first place. Does it make sense to pursue the interlocal agreement so that the two towns can continue to can more effectively work together as a single entity pursuing broadband expansion, or does that only become important or necessary if we go the broadband utility district route?
Let me answer the last question first. The second question you had. Yes, if you don't go the broadband utility district route, you don't need that agreement, because the ISP, if the ISP is going to theoretically, if they're going to build the network for themselves, they're going to put in, a portion of it. They won't need that interlocal agreement.
Okay. Does it
But-
hurt us to do it either way?
No, I don't. I think if you pursue this,
Mhm.
I think that's a wise thing to do.
Okay.
Because
So-
then everything kind of merges, Roy,
Hmm.
and you keep the momentum going. I just think that's the logical way to do it.
All right. So I can certainly bring that back to the communities, and what we can do is look at dates and times for potential special town meetings that this could be voted on. I'm also gonna start talks with Steuben just to see if we can maybe get them started on surveys and just gathering some information from their community. Because I feel like they could be a very valuable community to bring into this project, because they are literally consolidated communications only, no spectrum. And I forget who it was, but I think it might have been Sandy who said there's actually probably more funding opportunities for Washington County towns than Hancock County towns. So I guess we'll see. But I think they could bring a lot of value in the sense of grant eligible area to be able to boost an overall take rate, not just a community take rate, but the whole whole network. Does that make sense to everybody, to at least pursue that olive branch there?
Sure, have them join the party.
Okay. Well, as Jeff said, when you combine Winter Harbor and Gouldsboro, we've got what, something like 40, 44, 40 something percent
Mhm.
eligible, which isn't great, but if you add an entire town that's eligible, that has to help that percentage quite a bit.
Mhm.
So,
Mm.
all right.
And Roy, we have some language that we've used in other agreements where there was a bordering town that wasn't part of the RFP, but it says something about if the ISP is willing to work with the town next to us,
Mhm.
that please express your interest in that in the RFP.
Is that something the committee would like to add in language wise?
Bordering towns, yeah, as far as like, say, for instance, Asheville or, well, no longer Asheville, but Sullivan,
Mhm.
you know, go east and west.
Sullivan is another one of those towns that has a lot of spectrum coverage, but and I've reached out to them in the past and there has not. They've got Don Snoke, who has really worked on their broadband setup over
Mhm.
there, and he's been he was able to identify an issue with Spectrum's availability system, where it was showing only those addresses that had previously had cable service as being eligible, regardless of whether or not the cable ran out front of the building or not. So he helped them track down that error, and they've added a lot of customers to Spectrum since then. Plus, they also added the Starlink uplink site there. So,
Hmm. Okay,
but
well,
yeah, I mean, there's no reason to not include them. There may be sections, particularly on the periphery of Sullivan, that are not
yeah,
well served.
sure.
So,
The-
Okay.
This is a case of the more the merrier.
mhm.
Yep.
All right, so yeah, go ahead and add that language in there, Jeff, and
Okay.
I'll chip away at it from this side and see where we can get to.
Okay. Sounds good, Roy.
All right, so that's interlocal. This is more of an FYI than anything. We have the Dorcas Library letter of support. I think it was one of the things that Sandy had asked around is to get some of these community organizations to provide a letter of support for the expansion of broadband. I don't know if there's a specific purpose for it, but every little bit of support helps, and this is an important organization. So
Yeah.
just wanted to share that.
Well,
It's
that'll
endorsed.
definitely help Gouldsboro.
Mhm. Yeah. I don't have anything specific under Winter Harbor. Information gathering, well, we did the legal review of interlocal agreement and the next steps already. So
Mhm.
posting, that might have been a leftover from the previous agenda, by the way. Communications plan, posting the RFP. So as we discussed, Jeff, you're going to grab the document, you're going to make those tweaks. And then you said first week or so of September, start working on posting. Was that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. What I'll do, Roy, is come back with a proposed schedule
hmm
for you. And you can just say yay or nay and we'll go with it.
Okay. And then as necessary, we'll engage with the towns to see about posting in the newspapers.
That sounds good.
I do not have anything else. Is there anything other business that anybody wanted to bring up?
No other business, Your Honor.
Then tentatively, I have our next meeting set for Wednesday, September 27th at 4 o'clock.
Do we want to have that, you want to make that tentative in lieu of issuing the RFP per Jeff's recommendation, like the second week of September? Do we want to meet before the 23rd?
Uh, it's fine with me either way. Uh, if in your perfect world, Jeff, when would we post this?
Let me, let me look at a calendar here.
Okay.
Got too many things open here. Looking at. I think I would suggest that it go out Friday, the 9th of September.
Okay.
And that is real close to when the deadline for getting the grant applications into MCA is up. So everybody will be wrapping things up. If we give 6 weeks for people to respond, that will be more than enough. You won't be jeopardizing any of the respondents because they've got other things going on. After they get the grant applications and they're waiting till November to hear, if they are successful or not.
All right.
Or
And
do
I'll
we
build
wanna
it.
have- I'm sorry, go
build-
ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say, I'll build a schedule around that as the day that you post it, that the RFP goes out, that we will distribute it to the ISPs. And then it will be posted and we'll have a public notice also coordinated around that.
Okay. Well, do we
Well-
want to have maybe a final review on the 6th?
Well, so here's my thought. If all we're gonna be doing is reviewing it, what if we approve the posting of the RFP on Friday, that'd be the 8th, correct?
Correct.
Friday is the 8th. That's right. Yep.
Okay, so why don't we, if we want to, we can just approve posting on Friday, September 8th. And that will be subject to no additional changes in what you send back to us. Does that make
That-
sense?
That makes sense on my end.
And
If
if
it
we
does-
have anything we need to come back to look at, we can schedule a meeting for the 6th.
That sounds good.
Would that work for people?
Yes.
Okay. Do we want to put language in errors of omission to be included? We issue an RFP, but we forgot something, and the ISP queries us or rejects us because of that. Something to cover us.
I wonder if it was in ours or if it was in another one that I saw.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. I'm guessing omission is not listed in here, so. Is that any sort of language that you could slip in that you have ready to go, Jeff, or
Let me check. Yeah, I think there is.
trying to think here? I know some of the other, I think it was in the RFI. No, it wasn't. I know in one of the RFPs that I think Consolidated provided after we met with them, there was something about that, but I would be hard pressed to actually dig that out.
I mean, it's
Let
just a-
me, yeah,
Go ahead.
let me do some research on that. Like,
Okay,
because I'm pretty sure we probably have some language.
Okay, so you'll provide a final cleaned up version, ready to go. You'll send it to us. We'll send it
Yeah.
to the committee and the committee can review. But failing any, modifications from the committee that they feel are important, that will be, if we approve it with a vote here, that can be ready to go out on September 8th.
Yes.
All right, so do
Hmm.
we have a motion then to do what I just described?
So moved. What you said.
Second,
Yes.
All right, we have a motion and a second to post the RFP on Friday, September 8th, providing there are no further revisions the committee feels are necessary. All right, all those in favor?
Aye,
Aye, thank you.
we can include the cat, Dan.
All right,
Very
So-
big dog. Come here, buddy. Oh. So,
There.
That-
Oh,
that is-
okay.
yeah, that's no kind of
That's not a
cat I've
cat.
seen.
now,
All right, so then I'll leave the tentative next meeting as September 27th for right now. And then if we need to schedule ahead another meeting to deal with anything, we can always do that.
Roy, you want to do is that the 20? No, the
That's-
23rd is a Saturday, right?
Yeah,
So
27. is the-
27, okay,
the-
I'll make it,
That's
put that
the
on the calendar.
fourth Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 4 o'clock.
All right. If that is it, Dan, I will send you an email. Do you want me to email you personally, or you just want the committee email?
whatever you sort of, I need to reach out to you as the chair, and I guess Bob, I don't have Bob's email either, and he's the co-chair, right? So to the extent
Yeah.
that I can get both of those, that'd be. I usually am able to, because you use that group format, I'm not able to harvest the email. That's probably why you do it, right? I'm not able to harvest the emails off your incoming mail, so.
No, I just do that for the expediency of sending out a lot of
Yeah.
emails, but I will email you and my contact information.
And Dan, if
So
you need
feel
my,
free
if you need my email,
Actually.
it's
Yeah.
spook, like in spooky, spook
Yeah.
1275 @gmail.com.
Here,
All right,
I
And
can
don't
make
forget
this.
perfect. Thanks. I'll grab that too. If you want to throw your Paramount Plus password into, so I see that's in your bookmark bar, I'd be happy to, jot that down, but I'll
Sure.
understand if you don't. Now that I get that fiber coming in, I can stream, I'll be able to stream all the media services at the same time on all my devices, so.
Okay,
Sorry, I don't mean to brag about it. I know you're doing good work and you're gonna get it too soon enough, but,
Well,
all right, thank you.
you're welcome. All right, so here, having no other business, I would accept a motion to adjourn at 5:09.
so moved.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye,
Thank you.
next
Thanks,
bat
everybody.
channel,
Yeah.
bat station, we'll see ya.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Right.